Let's begin our second module with the writing process. What you've learned in the past, the standard process model, the key value of the process model, and what the standard model misses, how we really write, what we forget to consider, and how to analyze contexts. Now, as a user of our advanced writing labs, you've probably taken writing classes before. And as you know, writing process issues form a standard topic in writing classes. This is a crucial discovery for many students, and it's a breakthrough in many cases for writer's block, recognizing and making space for the process that generates the artifact, that is, the text. As you are probably already aware, the writing process is often broken down into stages. First comes pre-writing. That's where we use invention to compile the materials we're going to write about. Then comes the planning stage, where you develop your argument and decide on a structure and sequence. Then the drafting stage, where we compose text and we document our sources. Then the revision stage, where we look at a first draft and decide if it needs to be structurally revised or edited. The process approach has come to dominate much writing instruction for a simple reason. It matters. It addresses the fallacy that many students have, the idea that writing means producing a product. This is a simplistic belief that if I am going to sit down and start writing, well, that can only mean one thing. I'm producing text as a product. That is to say, I think of writing only as the stage of drafting. This is the cause of many writing problems. And in order to understand this, we need to have a definition of a draft. We're going to say that a draft is a formally composed text intended to be read by a reader. This definition of drafts will help us understand one of the most common problems for writers: premature drafting. Obviously, that would be trying to compose your draft before you're ready. Now, premature drafting, drafting too early, causes two big problems. One, we very often don't have anything to say, and we don't really have a plan for how to say it. But the other thing is that we feel anxiety, and this leads to blockage. A draft, as we've said, is a formal text intended for readers, while both formality and readers cause anxiety. And anxiety blocks the sources of writing: thought, the imagination, voice of expression. All of this because one tries to draft before one is ready. As you may have experienced in another class, a solution for this is pre-writing. Pre-writing is the opposite of drafting. It's an informal writing activity which is not intended for a reader. And because of this, people often feel their anxieties stilled. Pre-writing offers a low-stress opportunity to compile and organize materials. Many writing students benefit from pre-writing techniques. If, for example, you spend a third to half your available time on pre-writing, you can compose your draft freely without worrying about readers. And after you've composed a soundly structured draft, then you can read your draft for structural revision, in which you add or subtract, you extend or contract, you reorganize. And, of course, finally, for editing. Now, all of that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it? And yet, you've developed the ability to work free of anxiety. Maybe you want to sit down and really start drafting before you've done anything else. Is that okay? Maybe you want to edit as you draft. In the middle of writing a sentence, you see a problem and you stop and fix it. Is that okay? Well, these practices are okay if you can set anxiety aside and see the draft as wet clay to be molded and remolded and finished and then refinished. If you can do those things, then you don't have to follow that strict sequence. Which raises an important self-assessment. You should think about this very hard. When you sit down to write, do you tend to start drafting right away? If so, are you willing and able to draft without fretting about readers, about producing a perfect text? Substantively revise the structure of an early draft? Add, enhance, tighten up, cut? Rearrange, re-argue? If not, then you probably should spend more time pre-writing. But there's a bigger problem with the traditional way we talk about writing process in many writing courses. It focuses on two factors, on the writer's grasp of content and the way the writer thinks about it, and the production and editing of a text. But this is an incomplete model. It's missing something very important. It's missing a consideration of the context of writing. The context consists of audience, writing conventions, and genre demands. Two quick definitions. A convention is a standard way of doing things agreed on by some community, and our life is made up of many social conventions. For example, how to behave at a wedding or a funeral. Those conventions are very different. Out of conventions grow genres. A genre is a standard type of art or craft, and that type always has certain components and preferences and style and so forth. For example, in the field of movies, we know of movie genres with conventional elements: romantic comedies, superhero blockbusters, crime-solving thrillers. Those tend to be structured a certain way with certain components following certain values. Now, the fact is that many of the challenges that drive writers crazy actually have to do with context. For example, audience issues. How can I earn credibility from this audience? What do my readers really want? Why do they give such negative feedback? Have you ever felt that with regard to, for example, college professors? Then there are convention and genre issues. What is it I'm really supposed to do here? Is there a pattern for how I'm supposed to organize things? How do I start? How do I finish? All of those are context issues. And see, here's the problem with contexts. Each is different. No one correct pattern fits all writing contexts. In each context, you have to adapt. And many writers struggle with this. They don't understand the current context they're working in. They try to apply patterns that have succeeded in another context to the one that they're in, not realizing it's different. You need to do some self-assessment about this. How consciously do you consider your writing contexts when you sit down to write? How sensitive are you to differing audience values in different situations? How closely do you consider diverse writing models, or do you just always basically write the same kind of text? Any experienced college instructor will tell you that many students forget to ask a simple question when they start writing their assignments. What is the assignment? What specifically am I being asked to do? What am I not supposed to do? What are the guidelines? What does the teacher expect? How will my work be evaluated? Which academic writing genre should I follow here? How much effort do you routinely put into this question? Beyond the standard generic writing class context, you'll find yourself in others. And there will be other conventions, other genres. For example, differing ways of doing things in different academic fields of study. In graduate school, or research reports, or in professional contexts, within an industry, according to your professional role, individual organization culture. And then there are field genres, workplace communications, marketing or business plans, white papers, grant proposals. And there are cultural contexts, international, regional, ethnic, etc. Each of these is different. And this will be our focus for Module 2. We'll be exploring intertwined challenges, context, genre and writing structure, and the writing process.